You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love. Hello, and everybody. Finally, without my daily, we start the Richard Boswell episode. And Richard is a preeminent skateboard photographer from the Gulf Coast of Florida. Where exactly are you at, Richard?
Well, I grew up in Sarasota. I was in Sarasota the whole time. Well, the whole time the slides in this video are.
Okay. All right. Excuse me for a minute. Thank you very much for joining us and supplying the pictures for us to share. We really appreciate, just skater to photographer, really appreciate you taking the time to come out and put in all the work and buy the equipment. And originally, maybe even some of these, you had to pay to have them developed. And it's just very nice of you to do that. Especially, this is like historical documentation here, and we really appreciate you sharing it. So welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got into photography.
It was pretty much skateboarding. I mean, well, I always picked up cameras and stuff and kind of tootled around, but I had access to cameras when we started skating a lot. And so everybody was like, hey, what'd that look like? And so I was the guy, so I thought, screw it, I'll just bring the camera down and start taking pictures. And that's where it all started.
Did you start with film?
Oh yeah. There was no digital back in early mid 80s.
Okay, so this is 80s. So you were using Ektachrome, or did you started using
I shot everything. I wasn't
film?
real. I towards the end I got particular about some things, but you know, everybody starts with Tri-X, and then you move on to all kinds of different stuff.
You're doing print work mostly, and then
well, I guess I should back up. I started taking pictures just before I went to college, and I really liked taking pictures, so I went to school. After a couple other major tryouts, I went into photojournalism, and so my first professional photography was I was always pretty lucky. Like I got an internship at the Sarasota Herald, which had just been picked up by the New York Times. And my first day on my first winter internship, first semester or end of first semester in journalism school, I shot a 5 bureau cover for the Sarasota Herald, and that kind of evolved into me working there. Before I was at UF at photojournalism, and they offered me a job, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to school for photojournalism, or I'm going to take the job. So I took the job, and so I was making money, and I was getting checks from the New York Times before I ever really got anything published in skateboarding.
Nice.
Skateboarder had died a while back, and then I guess Thrasher came on, and that magazine, and then Transworld came out, and Transworld appealed to me. It was slick compared to Thrasher, and I always wanted to work for Transworld, so I started sending Grant things, and he would go, oh, this sucks, and try this, and that's terrible, and try that, and okay, and then eventually that evolved into me using my New York Times press pass to get onto the ramp at the NSA contest in St. Pete. And that's where my skateboarding photography really kind of matured. I got my technique down, and they started using those pictures. And so for a couple of years, I ended up shooting all over the Southeast for them.
Who was the photo editor then?
Grant Britton.
Jay Grant. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And he was giving you feedback. That's awesome. He was giving you feedback. Say, hey,
he was really good about that. I mean, he write notes and send them back. And,
nice.
And he didn't, I'm paraphrasing, and he never said what I said he said, but that was basically the gist of it. It was like, yeah, this is good, that's good, but this isn't quite up to par. Try this, or
you may want to try this.
Yeah. But it sounds better the way I say it.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
The editors know it when they see it, but they can't tell you what they need. So
he had he could tell you what he didn't like,
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and you'd figure out what he liked before then. Plus, there were definite rules that you would adhere to, and maybe not everybody would adhere to them all that much. And then you'd start to, it's photography. You learn, it's an art. It's like a language, There's a difference between speaking English and writing poetry. And a lot of times in the poetry, you're not really following the correct grammatical format. So you're breaking the rules to make something interesting. And that's kind of where I gravitated to after a while in my skateboarding photography. I have some things that I know that I like in a photo that I got towards the end, that I started maturing my work with skateboarding. And so I like a good skateboarding photo. I think what you want to do is you want to establish an environment and then separate the subject, however you do that. And I like a little movement. So a lot of times if you're shooting like up against the sky, when you're talking about separating subject, so the sky will be bright, the subject will be darker, right? And then you're getting a little movement. And then I think you're getting on to what I like. Because the kids today have a point. They don't really care about still photography so much. They want to see the action, right? The way to communicate some of that action in a still is to give it some movement, some life. We'll start looking at photos now. We'll
Yes, sir.
start talking about who's and what's.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I restate? I think I caught you say there's a difference between writing poetry and speaking the language, or vice versa. I mean,
Right.
Did you invent that? That is an amazing.
Yeah, I like that too. You got to put that on the quote for the Insta or something. Damn, that's some heavy shit right there.
I don't think I was the first one to make the comparison. I'm not going to stand on that. But you can tell everybody I'm awesome if you want, but I'm pretty sure that thought was born, in other people as well. But artists will talk to you like that. Like, I have a Pablo Picasso. I have a pin on my Instagram from Pablo Picasso, and it basically says, "Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist."
There you go.
So
tell us about the 301 ramp.
Let's talk about 301 ramp. That's I wish the 301 guys were here, but I reached out to them, and they'll show up or they won't. The first picture we have here, where it says the 301 ramp.
Yes, sir.
That is Chuck Holtz. And if you don't know who Chuck Holtz is, you ought to. Chuck Holtz probably made your skateboard if you were skateboarding between 1985 and 1995. I still
ride deck crafters right now. I've got my main setup as a deck crafter's bad egg. Yeah, I got a few of them in the garage. So yeah.
So that's Chucky came to visit 301 one day. It wasn't very busy, as you can see across the platform, but he was there. He was there with a friend, and his name escapes me. We'll run across him, and somebody will chime in on the comments or something and let us know. Or I'd have to take a minute to go to the Instagram and find it.
So 301's a long road. Where the heck was the ramp?
Where it was? Well, that's a good story. Sarasota. That's part of the charm of 301 is where it was. 301 was kind of 17th Street in Myrtle and 301 just off to the east. And
the hobnob's right there.
Right. And so it was not in an affluent part of town. And it was like a vacant piece of property back in the middle of this neighborhood. I couldn't tell you how to get there now. But you had to turn on 3 or 4 different streets, and it was just a vacant lot. I believe John Dent, his family had something to do with it, and that's where that was built. And I wasn't there when it was built. I was at the University of Florida in photojournalism, so those stories I don't have. I was hoping to get somebody here that did, but maybe next time.
I live about a mile away from that ramp, or that spot, 17th and 301 right now. I go by there all the time.
Yeah, it's right. It was right behind the convenience store, sort of as the crow flies, probably 200 yards or something.
Yeah.
So that's actual plywood All you kids out there, take a look. It's real
yeah.
plywood.
We liberated lots of plywood until we got old enough to get in trouble for it. Then we probably bought some.
That's good.
So no lighting, I guess.
What's this?
No lights on the ramp.
No lights on the ramp. It was, skate till dark.
So this
Who knows what happened there after dark? I'm sure there are some stories, but none from me.
So that looks like a Monty totem pole.
Yeah, that's the totem pole 2, I think. I think this is just, I said I was fortunate in my photography. A lot of ways. In some ways, I wasn't very much fortunate. These are probably some of the best shots I have, and in my opinion, you'll find I'm not terribly humble. I think some probably the best shots of anybody's had of Monty. And it was right before he went on to host Soy. So the marketability
you can't use it.
This is not digital, right? This is a film.
No, these are all film.
Film.
It's back when it was hard.
Yeah.
You had to know what you were doing.
Yeah.
So you see, is that Air Jordans he's wearing?
Yeah, man. Air Jordans were the bomb. They were it was right when the Jordan 2s came out, and the Jordan 1s were on sale. Everybody had them. Daly had them.
Was it Donnie Meyer had that same story, and he bought every single Jordan 1 he could on his way over to Europe, and freaking bootlegged him the whole time. That financed his trip over there because he was selling the Air Jordans.
Yeah, that's one of the other story is the Beastie Boys stickers. Did you hear that story?
Didn't they?
No,
did Beastie Boys come to the Grigley's ramp?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I don't know if you've seen my stuff, but I do East Boys. But that whole thing started with Donnie, the Zorlak guys. So it was Donnie, Rob Mertz, Scott Stanton, probably Sam was along with them and stuff, and maybe a couple other people. But they were promoting Paul's Boutique, and they had they were handing out all these Beastie Boys Paul's Boutique stickers. And as I've heard it, Rob figured out that if you cut it up right way, it'd say East Boys. So they started cutting up all these stickers and putting them on their helmets, handing them to their buddies and stuff. And so that's how the East Boys came about. And I was the guy that was photographing back then, all those guys. So I kind of felt like their chronicler, So I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get one of the stickers, though, because I guess you had to beat somebody. Now I just make them and give them away. But I don't give them away to people who aren't from the East. So unless I make a mistake.
Richard, were you shooting for the Miami, the Sarasota Herald at this time also, but not skateboarding? You had a job?
I was doing both. The Herald was a 9 to 5, 5 day a week thing. And it kind of overlapped with me starting to work for Transworld. And then the guy that hired me at the Herald, and remember, I got hired off an internship because he was short. He needed somebody. I mean, it's not like they went on a big big search for the next great thing, but he thought I was competent and hired me because he needed somebody, and I worked there, and then he left, and then nepotism bit me when somebody else came in because I was the least termed employee, and I guess she gave the job to a friend of hers. So
of course.
But not that I'm cruel or anything, but I noticed that both of them got fired when the next photo editor came in.
That's the nature of the news business.
That is the nature of the news business.
What camera were you using at this time?
I was shooting a Canon T90.
Classic. Yeah.
And at this time, I was probably using a Sigma 28mm lens most of the time. At some point, I got a Canon 20mm and then a Canon 15 full frame fisheye. But I believe these are all with the 28.
Were you doing any fill flash or anything like that, or is this all just natural light?
I'm pretty sure all these so far are fill flash, but maybe the Chuck Holtz pictures are not. But certainly this one, you can see how it's motion and stop.
Yeah,
that's a flash technique. And certainly you can see with the Monty pictures before that he's separated by light, which is also a telltale sign of flash. So he's pulled out. What I mean is separated. He's
for
pulled.
Everybody out there that has tried to get a picture in one of the magazines. That's a big deal to get a picture in the magazine. They treated you like you were part of their team, or were you always freelance, or how'd that work?
I achieved a listed contributor, and I also was sent on assignment.
Ah.
So I was pretty high up on that food chain. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of us.
If you're on the masthead, that's the shit.
Yeah, I was on the masthead for a few years.
Nice.
And it was, I felt like I had achieved that's kind of why I left skateboarding. I felt that I had achieved as much as I was going to achieve here. Like maybe I could have moved to California and push the market that way, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was kind of falling in love with skateboarding, with photography, and kind of thinking that I might want to go commercial and editorial. So I ended up moving to New York and living there for about half a dozen years. But
you were in the city or in the state?
What's that?
In the city of New York or the state?
In the city.
So was there much skating going on in the city and the alleys?
Well, let me finish what I was saying.
Sure. Okay.
So I felt like I had gotten as far as I was going to get, and the checks that I were getting, the monies that were coming in, it just wasn't going to, pay for a young man starting a life. Nope. And it's not like you can. It's remember, I started making money as a photographer before I started trying to make money as a skateboard photographer. So it was very discouraging trying to work through the industry. I'm sure you'll hear that from other people trying to work in skateboarding in other aspects of the industry. So right around the 90s, 91, 92, I pretty much decided I wasn't going to pursue skateboard photography. And I continued because I went to Daytona Beach to photo school, and that's when Stone Edge was there. So I was, Stone Edge was right down the way. So I would go and shoot, just, to shoot and see my old friends, and I'd still get stuff in the mags. Mainly by then I was past the mags and just working with the companies. And after I graduated from photo school, I put I didn't point my camera at a skateboarder again until 2021.
Oh, wow.
Because I was just so sick of it. I was so sick of it.
Hey,
had I known that all the skateboards they wanted to pay me with were going to be worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000,
that's right.
I might have had a different outlook. But look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not real though. Hey, Tim.
Hey.
Tim Mott joined us. What's up, sir?
Hey. How y'all doing?
We were hoping you were coming.
Put a flashlight on your face. You're all dark.
Well,
So, this looks like one of those girls that used to skateboard there in Florida, right? This is a girl? That long
Chuck Holtz.
That's Chuck Holtz, man.
I always give him shit for being a hair farmer.
Oh, everyone was. Gridley was too at that point in time.
You can go look up. You can go look up at him and tell him that. He was hard to photograph because he's one of those guys that exploded, like he'd be so big at the beginning of the layback and then he'd be like 10 times bigger halfway through it. So
where was this shot?
This is all 301.
That's 301.
It's all 301.
Okay.
This episode's about 301.
301's got real coping then. Is that poured in place?
One side had real coping and the extensions had real coping.
Okay.
Actually, I think it started out all coping.
It did. I'm just saying, like, at that phase of the ramp. I remember when those were taken, that's all.
Hey, let me correct you, because it's probably the only time I'm going to get to do that. So it started out all coping, and then they put a big steel pipe on the longest side. And of course, it had a roll in, which I liked, because otherwise I wouldn't have skated it. Because when you stuck your board out on that coping, if you look at it, it's really not quite level. It's like kicked up a little bit.
Nope.
So when you stuck your board out on it, your board was like pointing straight up in the air, and I wasn't having any of that. I hate tail drops. I still do. I'm a surfer.
Well, it's funny because you saying that Chuck Holtz never tail dropped.
Yeah.
He was axle drop only.
Well, there you go.
He axle dropped and he learned how to, and once he learned how to roll in, there was no reason to ever learn how to tail drop. I'm sure he did eventually, but the way that he would always start a run was from axle drop.
That's like telling like people all the stories about, your little brother when he used to do stuff that was, that's, I never tail dropped because I was just, well, I did eventually tail drop at some point, but I never liked it.
It was a rite of passage. People got bloody.
God.
It is a barrier to entry. There's so many things I'd like to skate that I just don't, because I don't want to deal with it. I don't know.
It was an elevator drop. It was.
I need to go offer my services to Woodward, because they have that trapeze thing, and you just do that until you get the feel of it. And once you get the feel of it, it's fine. But 60 years old is a little old to be busting your ass every time you try.
Tim, how old are you here?
Oh, they're 17, 18.
So you got to drive.
Yeah. And the sad part is so this photo, these two shots, it kills me because it's so not representative of what it was supposed to be, but it's beautiful because it's chaos. Right. Because if you look at my front foot on the very first frame, and you look at my toe on my back foot, I was trying to get into backside Smith.
Yeah.
Right. Hey.
And what happened was it got up and it stuck and it never got high enough to where it could lap over on it. And so then I ended up just doing that monstrosity that's in the middle frame.
The host of Recompense going on there.
And the thing is,
kind of like you're doing a shuffle there. Kind of like
he's leaving out the best parts of the story. The best part of the story is he goes, Rich, man, go down to the coping. Wait, I got something for you. So I go down to the end of the coping, I'm shooting down the coping. He comes and he does this thing, and it is so scary. It's like everybody's like, oh my God, because he comes out of that and he actually makes it. But he doesn't have his feet on the board at the beginning, and it's like a big set slide halfway down. I mean, it's all sorts of wrong.
No,
the last picture
is
him just laughing at his. He totally made it. And we're just all laughing. We're like, oh my God, you got
to. A little tip like that can take a lot of balls to ride out, because that could lead to 1 foot on, 1 foot off really quick.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if you can see, but I mean, you can see where I'm heading there. I mean, you can see my toes like getting up to lock on the tail. The other one, that one's the one that I would, So you can see where I'm like starting to get. It's trying to get up into the lap over, and the whole back truck just slid, and that's how it ended up on the next frame.
Right, and you're looking at it too. I mean, that's credibility. You're looking at your feet, not at the bottom of the bowl. It's great. You went for it.
Yeah, I was particularly known for just hanging on to crap that I had no business making, but half the time I would.
That's how Dwayne Peters rode.
So this is Chuck again. Now we know who this is.
Yes.
Well, I always knew who it was.
Well, I didn't. And, he doesn't look like he looks now, so I was having trouble.
Well, who does?
Who's on the deck there with that? Is that a Godoy board?
No. Oh, on the deck, yeah, that's Chris Rosendahl from down in Naples. He was he skated for Skull Skates, but he was part of the whole Naples crew. And we all would come up to 301 pretty regularly.
Nice.
And obviously with Chuck just being over in Tampa and the whole Grigley scene, they would all come down to 301 as well. But usually at this point in time, Chuck was already out in California. Schmidt was already out in California. So it was a big deal for them to be back in town, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So needless to say, everyone from Naples came up. Everyone from St. Pete came over, you know.
Well, you got to remember at this time, Schmidt had pretty much reinvented the skateboard, and their revamp of vision hadn't really taken off yet. So real skateboards were only made by Paul Schmidt for this, year or two, maybe.
Yeah, we've already seen 2 buzzsaws. Howard's riding one. Monty's riding one.
So this one that Chuck is riding is a prototype for the Ripsaw.
Ah, okay.
Or it may have been in production at that point, but
right.
Of course, Chuck being Chuck and, you know, being able to do what he did with Paul, he never rode a production board ever.
Of course not. Of course
ever. Not. I mean, even in the Monty days, he was actually riding his modified version of a Dwayne Peters board, but with a Monty graphic. And then once they got out to California and all the funky shapes were happening, he created the Ripsaw to be like the ultimate hand grab board. Like no matter where you grabbed, which way you skated, there was going to be a grab rail there or a little money bump. And if I'm not mistaken, on this trip, when he was down, that's when everybody got their first Ripsaws.
Oh, I got you.
Like he brought back a stack of them, and so everybody was riding Ripsaws.
So, real quick, a word to anybody who's watching who doesn't skate ramps or doesn't know about this, but this is very somewhat Jay Smithy, and it's a layback done proper on a flat ramp. A lot easier to do a layback in a pool or round wall. No, this is a testimony to somebody who's really trusting those back wheels to stop so he could pull this off. It's pretty cool.
It helps that he's locked into Smith because that'll keep him on the top of the ramp.
Right. Yeah. So by the time he falls, he's not going sideways anymore. He's going down.
Oh, no, he's traveling sideways at this point in Smith.
All right. But I mean,
he's grinding along the coping. He does it. He's probably doing it for another 2 feet at least.
Right. And by the time he stops that, he's falling down. If you try to, I've seen Lake do them on vert on, at the Kona ramp or on, some sort of, it's a flat ramp and he doesn't grind. And to me, that's even harder.
Ed, go back to images.
So what he is performing
that's
is a layback rollout.
Yeah. He's not doing a rollout. He's doing a Smith grind to tail there and going in. It's the same trick, different angle.
Yeah, right, but the going to tail thing, that whole premise was a layback rollout that he got from Dwayne. And yes, the Smith he would go to Smith and then pop up to tail like that, but it was essentially just a variation of a layback rollout. Whereas what like Lake does, that's completely just a layback where you're completely inside the ramp.
Well, that's right. He was going to California, so he would go and get all mixed up with all the stuff that was going on out there, like Dwayne and whatnot, and then come back and go, "Hey guys, check this out."
I don't know.
I actually learned that trick from him.
I don't know.
I used to do that front side 50-50. I do that layback rollout, but do 50-50 and come in layback. That was freaking. I wish I could do that trick again. So much fun.
Yeah,
that's the same thing, except it's a Smith grind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a grind to layback is what it is. Grind to tail, slide layback.
So Richard, did you have a motor on your camera, or these are all just snapping?
The black and whites that we were just looking at were motor drive. So I'm not even sure I had flash at that point. But most of the color stuff you'll see is single shot because the flash has to recycle.
Yeah.
So in terms of equipment, Richard, So what was your first camera that you started shooting with? And by the time, like, how quickly did you evolve in equipment?
Well, the motor drive was the key for me because that was as much as I knew at the time. So what I did was I started, like I said, I always had access to cameras. I probably borrowed my dad's Nikon, and then my grandfather let me use his, or probably gave me one of his old cameras. It was a Konica that had a wide angle lens, 21. And from that, it was cool. From that, I went out and bought my first camera, which is a T90, which is what I shot my whole film 35 millimeter career. I just kept getting T90s. And you know, the shutter would develop a bounce after a while, so you'd have to replace the cameras. They just became useless. And you know, wall art. but it was cool because they had
it, of a second.
First,
what was your shutter speed for most of your action shots?
Well, it all depends. You know, I don't have a probably real high for the motor drive things. If I got the flash working with it, you have to stop to 250th.
Yeah.
Because that's where your sync was back then.
Yeah, right.
Nowadays, not so much. There's other ways you can get around that, but the flash sync on the T90 was 250th of a second, and
that's pretty good.
And like the Nikon and the Konica I was using before was way slower. And then the reason I got the T90 because it actually had a built-in motor drive. It was like 5.5 frames a second. So
wow.
That's why I originally got the T90. But you know, when you start chasing the moment, you stop using. You usually graduate to flash fill, single shot stuff, until you can figure out how to get a flash to go off several times, and you can get back to motor drive.
That was kind of fun when back in the day skating when somebody would be using a motor drive. It's like, you know, you're in a Duran Duran video or something. You're ting.
Well, lots of
that got expensive. They got real expensive.
Yeah, you got to figure back then it was probably $1 a shot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
You
Hey, Ed, can you
gauge
zoom
your
in?
aerials by how many times the cameraman, you know, held his button down.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Edgar?
Yes, sir. What were you looking at? Which one?
Just bring the whole. That's good. It down a little bit, but I mean, you got some real estate there. That's better. Don't want to cheat our kids here that are watching.
So the ATV. Who's riding that?
That's Todd Barron. He was one of the 301 locals. He's doing a big Indy Air. I'm looking out from the channel there. He had indies and slops pretty well. Wouldn't you say, Tim?
Oh yeah, no question.
He was a really, really, really good surfer. He might have been one of the best 3 surfers in the Gulf at that time. Mind you, I was the first men's champion, ESA champion of Gulf Coast.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mainly because I made all the contests. But
I was gonna comment. Is that because you were the only?
No. There were other ones there, but I did the best most often. I didn't win. I don't think I ever won a contest. I won heats, but not contests.
You
know, that's my claim to fame, and I'm claiming it.
I was top 20 in the Hester series, beating all kinds of people because I showed up to like 3 of the contests. And you know, I made the cut on one of them, but you just kept points for showing up. I was like, oh, I'm fucking like ahead of all these people. And what the hell? So,
that's the game.
Yeah, exactly. Showing up is half the game.
And bringing the coffee to the judges.
And go back up there, Ed, real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because I just want to comment about Monty's frontside invert right there.
Yeah,
even though it's cropped out, I'm just going to throw it out there. One of the gnarliest frontside inverts that you could possibly ever do.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's tuck me and the board's flapping back behind him like that. That's just gnarly.
Monty does stuff that you just look. I see black and whites and I see silhouettes. I know you just know it's Monty. Look at the front side air.
Yeah.
Look at the same. It's the same thing.
But what
That
you're
front
doing,
side air.
what you're doing
Nobody
here
does-
is you're waiting for the noise of him landing, because he didn't do anything soft.
No.
The ramp is probably groaning right now.
But I don't know if you mean, well, but he never sketched.
No.
Monty never sketched.
Yeah, he threw it away before he sketched.
Yeah, he would throw it away before he sketched. So everything was solid. He landed like a freaking oak tree, is what he, it was just boom.
Put down roots.
That's right. But if you look
Ray,
at
you weren't on the ramp when he was dropping in a body jar.
what you got to love about Monty is like Tim said, look at that. You look at that front side invert. You look at the front side air there.
This is a great pictograph I got going here. Sorry about that.
You just look and you know it's Monty. I mean, not really a lot of people do even the front side airs like that.
Well, he's skating like Kelly Lynn, but he's 6'2" or whatever he is. He's huge. Right.
And nobody did frontside inverts like him that I
No. I mean, the only person in my book, there's 3 best frontside inverts. Well, 4 if we throw in El Guerra. Okay, just because he invented it, so of course we got to throw him in there. But Cab, instead of, and Monty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're all different.
But they're all fantastic. And what I love about, I mean, I love this era of frontside inverts because everyone came in on the outside of their arm instead of on the inside of their arm, which is so common in today's version of frontside inverts. It drives me nuts. Like this you can tell he's coming in on the opposite end of it, on the outside side of his arm, instead of having the hand or coming in on the inside of where his hand is planted.
Yep.
Right. He's coming in front. He's traveling. He's moving in front of his hand, not going back behind it. But no, like I said, Cab's sick, right? But I see people do frontside inverts like Cab these days, or trying to, right? I don't see anybody doing Monty's thing.
No, it's because Monty's almost looked like he's going to do a Miller flip, but then he doesn't flip.
Right. I mean,
it's a long way. It's a long way. I mean, 6.5 feet from here to here.
His arm span is probably 6 foot there. Yeah, so that's not trivial. He's covering distance there.
He would literally shake the ramp.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people say people shake the ramp. Monty literally shook the ramp. You would feel Monty.
He was powerful.
Well, when I there was one time, and I'm sure you probably have a similar story, because I think if I recall correctly, Rich, didn't they do, I know like down in Naples, we had resurfaced the ramp, put all brand new coping on the ramp, and Monty came down and proceeded to break every single block except for the 4 on the corners.
I think Steve and John and Rich just put the coping on better. I don't remember.
Richard, did these pictures get published in Trans World Skateboarding or any place?
No. So when I said I didn't point my camera at anybody again until 2021, and I don't want to make it a bitch fest because,
Too late.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm not. Because when you're a photo editor, you have other concerns, right? You have to figure out, what everybody wants to see, not what just Richard Boswell wants you to put in the magazine. But when you have the whole industry there walking through your office, including the skaters that are all there, the skaters that aren't there kind of got the shaft as far as exposure goes. And exposure was, it's today's economy is attention. Back then it was exposure, so I kind of have a soft spot in the heart for the guys that didn't make the move right away, you know, even though Monty did go out there, you know,
he stuck around.
I mean, Monty was never, you know, Monty, because of the challenges he had, was never going to reach the level of popularity that was going to be able to do with skateboarding justice, because popularity was a driving force in how successful you were. It wasn't skating,
as well as,
you know,
the sponsor paying for advertising in the magazine. That was a huge part.
Right. And so, right. But that was advertising. And then you had the editorial pages. And I'm not like jumping. I mean, I'm sure Grant Brenton will be the first one to tell you, I wish I had another 100 pages an issue to distribute, you know, around the world. But I'm not even sure, even with the pressure that would have happened, right? Because then there was 100 pages for the guys that strolled into the magazine. Hey man, look at this rad show. Oh wow, that's great, Grant. You need to put that in. You know, that kind of pressure is real. But the shame of it is when they went to the contests, almost didn't matter how you skated, because all the freaking kids there are screaming, and that's real too. And the judges feel that, you know. And if the kids don't know who you are, they're not freaking screaming.
The pros know who he is, who he was. He's a skater's skater. They all know.
Monty Nolder's my favorite skater, and in my opinion, Monty Nolder's the best power skater ever.
I put him up there with Losi without a question, because Losi had a very similar style as well, like just full bore, full power. Monty's my favorite too, Rich. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please pontificate on that, because
I mean, like I said, I made a post about it, and I made the shirt, you know, because he doesn't get the, you know, he got shafted in so many ways. Not my favorite person. I met him once and it was unpleasant, but Fasto Vitello, right? You have the quintessential lip trick. I mean, it is definitive. The Monty grind is the definitive lip trick, period. Everybody wants to do it. They all want to do it beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Fasto wouldn't put Monty on Indy. Monty was, you know, he wanted on Indy so bad. Fasto stuck him on Thunder and wouldn't move him. So I went to GNS, because Monty, that's what Monty does. Monty says, oh, fuck you, you know. Oh, sorry.
All right.
That's, you know, he goes, nah, fine, I'm out.
He actually started on GNS way back when. Remember those days?
No,
not trucks, not GNS.
We're talking about trucks.
No, not GNS trucks.
I know.
We can't imagine him going to GNS trucks.
Monty left Thunder, which is an indie company, to go to GNS trucks because Fasto was just not getting it and didn't care.
There was actually before he got on Thunder, he was on Indy for one hot second, and he got an ad doing a backside ollie and a ditch out of hip, and it was that one ad, and then immediately was on Thunder.
Yeah, I guess Fasto, what he decided that was the way to bury Tracker, was to put out like 20 different truck companies and divide up the market. And
because then he did Venture right after that,
right?
And in between that, he also had another company called Impulse that was short-lived.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But he and the thing was he was paying different. I'm absolutely sure he was, you know, because Indy's the back cover of Thrasher every freaking issue, and that's a lot of money in your pocket, especially back then, because that's how you made money.
Yeah. Well, and as well, I mean, so
that's kind of why I'm so adamant about the Monty grind. That's why I scolded you, Tim, for saying that thing that you said before, which should never come out of your mouth. But you know,
which is what I don't remember what I said.
You said, I'm not going to say it.
It's like
I'm not going to say
like
it.
saying frontside Indy Air, frontside Indy Air, or a Gun Air.
Anyway, you know, my thing about Monty is he skated way better than he ever got credit for, and he should at least get the Monty grind, because he deserves a heck of a lot more than that. He needs to be in the front 20 skater conversation, at least as far as vert goes. At least, certainly for the area, he needs to be in the top 10. Am I wrong, Tim?
Oh, for sure.
You know, and he's not,
without a question. And just I mean, I do know what I misspoke there,
Yes,
saying that it was okay. Got it. But let me say it this way. I know, and to add to the story of the Monty grind, absolutely, Monty perfected it. But the person that actually came up with the concept was Chuck Holtz.
okay. Well, that's a story for Chuck. You got to get Chuck on the show.
And Chuck told Monty about it. And he was like, I've got this idea of a new grind. It's basically a backside Smith, but I just can't get it locked on and travel the way that I want to do it. Like, he was getting up and doing backside lap overs, but he was never getting the rail locked on like he wanted to. And Chuck told me the story of that and told me that, you know, a couple of months had passed by. He ended up coming to a session and he was like, Chuck, I learned that trick. And dropped in and did it. And Chuck was like, ah.
Wait a minute. Now, here's the thing about that story. Did you say he told him about it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it had to be face to face
it
while he was trying it then, right?
Well, he was trying it, but he's like, I just can't get it.
My point is they had to have been together while he was trying, because Monty's deaf. You can't call him up and tell him about anything.
No. They were skating and he was like trying to lap it over.
Oh, okay.
He was basically doing, like, for lack of a better way to put it, the same as like a Smith stop, like a frontside Smith stop. You know, right. It wasn't a Smith grind until Losi did them.
Right.
I mean,
you know,
that's the story I heard.
I mean, yeah. it could be this day, you know.
No.
Let's go on. But we digress. Let's move on to the next images. Now.
Oh, Mike Coyle.
Yeah, and look who's on the right.
Oh,
Ralph Folgers.
Tim Mott will tell you this is not proper because the board and the foot are not in the air at the same time. That's one thing that Tim has always been adamant about. It's like, dude, if you're going to do it, it both got to be in the air. So I just
the sad thing is I have a photo of myself at 301 almost identical to that, because
did he flip that board over though? Did Mike Coyle do like a foot flip?
Yeah, he did.
It looks like, yeah.
That's not like a slob to tail kind of deal. He actually flipped that board over.
Yeah.
So that's a different trick.
Gnarly.
Yeah, Mike was such a rad guy. He was one of the Lakeland locals, or from Lakeland, and would travel over. I mean, he traveled everywhere, all over the state for skating.
Actually, got years later, I got Mike into a full page and Transworld.
Yep.
Yeah.
So was the 301 ramp somebody's yard, or was this a?
No, it was a vacant property, I believe, associated with John Dent somehow. His dad owned it or something.
And you just built the ramp there, and
it was on the wrong side of the tracks.
It was way on the wrong side of the track.
But Sundays were always entertaining because you'd be skating the ramp and be hearing gospel singing like crazy, because the church not like on the other side of the woods to it.
I'm sure they appreciated our musical selections.
Oh, absolutely. Oh man.
This is
who's this?
Tokujima Fukunaka.
Toki was so rad. Such a fucking rad style.
Actually, I called Rich. He didn't get back to me about getting in on this conversation, but when I was looking through my slides, I called him. I go, man, I don't remember. I got 2 pictures of Toki doing frontside kick turns. I sent him a picture. He goes, did he just do that? He goes, oh yeah, I did it all the time. I go, wow, because that's just wrong. that's just death right there. That's just splinters in the back, blood down the ramp.
And it wasn't even like he wasn't. The rad thing about it is he wasn't even intentionally doing wheelers. He was just doing them.
That was just the way he did them. That's the frontside kick turn.
I love,
That was
love those
Cody's
knee
frontside
pads.
kick turn.
Those knee pads are the goods.
Oh
Are
yeah,
those Hilton pads?
And Converse,
yes they are.
and Converse All Stars. You know,
Steve Hilton was supposed to be on this conversation too, but
Zoom in and zoom in on the picture on the left side there, because you just need to see how micro edger that is.
Which one? This one?
holy okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you need to
This
zero
one you mean?
way the hell in on that.
yeah,
And if you notice, the wheel is on the top of the deck. It's on the top of the coping.
It's a hubcap. That's
Yep.
true.
Yeah.
This is Alba at Upland.
some people do rad
Same
tricks,
edge.
and some people just skate rad.
Good point.
Well, some people do rad tricks. Some people do tricks rad.
Yeah, there you go. Much better said.
So
I
look at
defer-
that board. Okay,
I
so
defer to the
tell me
timber.
about that stick. Is that an H Street with the hell concave and that giant high tail or whatever they called it?
No, that was a Chuck Holtz custom shaped board that out of the stacks that he would bring down.
That is
We all, like everyone from Sarasota, St. Pete, Naples, Lakeland, we were all so spoiled by having Schmidt here, you know, because we would just get prototypes of random things and random boards with random graphics. Like half the things that I've snapped over that 4-year period of time that they were here was insane. I mean, Joe Lopes boards with Monty graphics, foam cores that were just some one-off random ass shape that never made it into production.
I got two things, Tim. One is this is definitely a brand new board because it's random stickerage. He doesn't care. He's going to get another one in a couple weeks anyway. and then, wait, hold on. I forgot the other thing. Doesn't matter.
There's something else I want to say. Like I want to chime in. Like some people do rad tricks and some people do tricks rad. Is that how you said it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to Monty for a second because I had a thing that I like to say. You know, some people. You know, it's not how fast you drive. It's how you drive fast. If you look at Monty, like I said he landed like an oak tree and stuff. You know, if you look at him rolling across the flat bottom, he's just standing straight up and tall. Not a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You know, he was just solid.
He's fast.
He's landed right underneath the coping.
It's not how fast you drive; it's how you drive fast.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
but Toki was just he oozed style.
Oh my gosh, an Asian skater that oozed style.
All right. But
I think if they don't, they just quit. They just quit. They just embarrass. They just quit.
Oh well, so we I don't know if you remember. Why am I spacing his name now? We had an Asian persuasion skater down in Naples that was very similar. Where, good God, once he got in the air, it was massive and it was stylish, but kick turning. Oh my God, it was butt ugly. But as soon as he got in the air, it was on, like
poetry,
unbelievably on. And the dude couldn't even do an axle stall and was scared to death to hit coping. But once he got that first pump and got in the air, then he just successively got higher and higher and higher and higher and higher until it fell apart.
the fear of clean is something on
speaking of that, you know, my first skate hero was Shogo because he just looked better doing everything.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he had style to him.
Is this a normal weekend day here? Look at all these people.
No, I think
that was a contest.
That's a contest.
That was one of the. I think that was. Let me.
That's Ralph doing a mute air, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Look at all these. I mean, it's a great air, but I was just, this is, to me, I imagine a bunch of guys of like 5 or 6 guys out there, and we got mom and pop here. It must have been a contest. Did you guys have a contest?
Oh yeah.
They had a few, at least like 3 of them. I know.
I think 3 or 4 for sure. I know at least 3.
How long did that ramp last? It didn't last much longer than 3 or 4 years anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it was gone.
It was gone mid-late 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it lasted past 87, 88.
Certainly gone by 88, yeah. Who's that?
That is Michael Daly.
Holy cow.
That's Mike Daly. Mike never saw a camera he didn't like. And he is definitely wearing the Jordan 1s as well.
I love the eye contact. That's a lost art, man.
Yeah, just like that front side boneless.
Across the channel.
Across the channel.
Yeah.
No helmet, no wrist guards, like nothing.
Oh, okay. So this particular contest, I think this was number 2, Rich, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
So this contest in particular, I had driven up the night before, and
Wow.
we had a generator. We had a generator with lights on. Rich knows this story. I was going to tell this story. I mentioned it to him when we talked the other day, but drove up, had a generator, had lights, sessions going on, music's blasting, having a great time. I go to drop in, generator goes out, lights go out, music dies. I did my entire run with no light.
Nice.
And me just laughing my ass off. Go figure, right? Going back and forth, hitting grinds because I was just skating by braille at that point in time.
I actually think I skated that contest too. I laid down. In fact, I laid down all 3 of my tricks.
Hey, Tim, try and fix your camera. You're falling out of the frame at the
No,
bottom.
I just set it down. It was
see
my
you.
house, man.
There
Nobody
you
messed
go.
with us
Put a
in our
cushion under your butt or something.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I got 3rd the second one and 4th the 3rd one.
So this is Mike doing a Smithsall and Tim doing his frontside 5.0. And
Mike
look,
was real smooth. I always loved watching Mike skate. He was just smooth when he hit the wall and hit the.
and it was and there was you can date it too. If you zoom in, you can see that that was a sticker for the lotto.
Oh yeah.
That was when they were trying to get the lotto passed in Florida.
What is this?
Pass Amendment 5.
Amendment. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, the lotto really built a lot of skate parks. I know. No, it never happened, did it?
No.
And see, at that point in time, I was riding Thunders as well because Monty did.
Yep.
This deck had a lot of
Yeah.
The ramp had a lot of room on it. I mean, it wasn't like some
8-foot decks.
Wow.
We had
That's
8-foot decks, and it was what, 32?
Yep. 32-foot wide.
But you'll notice we did not have any railing.
Was it elliptical or was it?
No, it was like 8.5 with a 1.5 foot.
No, it was 9.5 foot and a half.
9.5 foot and a half.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Look generous. Look.
2.5 on the extension, I think.
Well, let's get this guy out of the way. Not enough of him.
Right.
Like I said,
A lens he didn't like.
Mike did like the camera.
A quick story about Mike. He was at the Clearwater Pro contest, and he wasn't skating, and then Kit Traverso goes, if you'll do a frontside roll-in on the extension coping, I'll pay for your entry. He goes, okay. I'm like, you're insane. And he just did it. You know, he's always been a little bit off.
The sidebar to that is he got a sequence of that in one of the magazines. I think it was Skates East magazine. Got a sequence of the roll-in, and his shorts have a hole in him. You can see his butt.
I know he's got one shot with his finger out. He's doing a wheeler nose grab, and has got a little finger out.
Yeah.
They used to crash Clearwater Skate Park with Moriarty and stuff with their green rental helmets from Earth and Surfing, or was it Earth and Surfing or Rolling Waves?
Rolling Waves. Oh my God. Yeah. So
wow. Who's here on the Vision?
That's Todd Barron again.
Is that a channel hop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah, that's legit.
Todd was rad. Todd was
no joke. He's out making movies in California now.
Who is this?
Nolder. That's Monty Nolder doing the Nolder. Another misnamed trick.
That's so he taught Christian how to do it.
If you want to call that the Nolder, what do you call the finger flip version of it?
Oh, finger flip Nolder.
Holy shit! Still haven't seen that one repeated ever.
But so something to think about, or just food for thought on this. So Monty was doing these before Christian ever got a photograph in the magazine, doing the quote unquote Christ hair. But you know, obviously the industry being what the industry is, and who gets the first photo and who gets the credit. Sort of essentially very similar to Gunnar Hago doing an Indy Air 5 years before Dwayne Peters ever did an Indy Air.
Yep.
And it was published in Skateboarder magazine, and everyone seems to forget that. But I digress.
In Christian's defense, Christ Air is kind of like like you would call a backside air, backside method. It's just a different airwalk.
Yes.
So I'm not so fussed about the whole Montair thing. Lots of people were doing airwalks. Mertz was doing them, but certainly Monty was doing them as early as anybody else. So
well, the full extension, leg extension with the arms out. I mean, Monty basically shot the board up into the air and caught it.
Right.
And his feet were just dangling. Whereas,
he did.
Whereas Hosoi would go up and flare it out and then go out to the pose. But Monty didn't have that kind of finesse. He would just go, and the board shoot up in the air and be like, Gah!
Yeah, Monty was power. And Christian, now I told you about Monty being, my favorite skater and the best power route skater ever. I think Christian Hosoi might be the first of the most talented skaters I've ever seen. He's just natural on a skateboard. And unlike a lot of people, photographers love him because he floats his tricks. He's such a peacock. He goes up and he just goes, okay, here it is.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. He did, but lots of people are hard. Some people do tricks like Tony Hawk does tricks super quick sometimes, and you don't really get to, Well,
that's the family tree is Hawk and Hosoi.
Well, yeah, but they're different. They're way different in how they skate.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Right? Yeah. I mean,
it's like people who do nose bones and then Chris Miller.
Yeah.
Right.
Lots of people go, whoop, stick their foot out, go nose bone. Chris Miller would just go whoop and just leave it there for a year and then come in. And hopefully he didn't bang his head on the bottom of the pool.
There's another guy who's a skater is Chris Miller.
I love Chris Miller.
He's phenomenal. But
as good as anybody.
But the Joe public never comes up to you and says, do you know Chris Miller?
Well, that's just like I said. I don't get it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul Schmidt didn't spend enough money on skateboard ads. I don't know.
Well, at that point, it wasn't Paul Schmidt spending the money. It was
You're right. At that point, it wasn't. It was somebody else. It was another one of our favorites.
Is Kosha micro edging, or is that Mike Kosha?
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, that's Rich Leslie
Yes.
in the March Violet shirt. He was one of the cornerstones. If there was cornerstones of 301, it was Todd Barron, John Dent, Rich Leslie, and I don't know who else would be the fourth one. Maybe Tim would be.
Tim, did you put that light up there on that post? That reeks of Tim Mott. I mean,
No.
you just did it at Kona a couple weeks
I think
ago.
he did confess not long ago. And then, of course, on the right, that's Billy Beauregard doing the proper layback roll around.
He had some pretty big layback airs. He could stomp those.
He was another one of those that was just beyond good.
Yeah.
But never really got his due.
Timing.
A
lot of timing issues.
Well, for sure. But like, I mean, like he was poised and ready to destroy, and then everything just kind of died. And he got that crappy Bogart looking bogey board on Veriflex just after everybody else had their, at the time, state-of-the-art boards. Like you had the Grisham, the Mike Hirsch or Steve. Yeah, it was Mike Hirsch. Or no, it was Steve Hirsch. Sorry,
Steve Hirsch was the one that won a lot.
Yeah. Mike was the younger brother. He's the one that owns SoCal.
Yeah.
But Billy just freaking ripped.
You went high.
And he had, it was just unfortunate because he literally came in just too late, and then life happened to him, got wrapped up in all sorts of things, obviously.
Yeah.
And ended up, like he got flown out to California a couple of times to do contests at Del Mar and actually did pretty darn well. But then things fell apart and Schmidt brought him back under his wing for a while. But, I mean, it's just another one of those scenarios of the Florida Swan song of, oh my God, it's the same story. Ripping dudes just in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong things. And
you can't really tell, but I'm wearing a Mike Frazier shirt.
Yeah, you talk about wrong place, wrong time. People are still trying to figure out what Frazier was doing, 20 years ago.
Indeed.
He finished his run and like, wait a minute, what did he just do?
Love you, Mike.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Mike just ripped. Always ripped. And that's Mark Smith on that photo right there. The one on the left. Mark,
is that the bean plant?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the guys I didn't know.
That's awesome. Mark Smith. Mark was such an unbelievably naturally gifted skateboarder. Him and Timmy Ellsworth both rode for Schmidt. But Mark was doing like face, neck high lean methods, like at this point in time, actually before this point in time, because he was still riding the Monties that were like the giant bombs before the totem pole boards when it was still the two stripes. But those things were huge and they weighed a ton, right? But he would just huck like face high lean methods, like Hosoi style. And Hosoi was the only one that could do those.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But Mark still he actually just recently got back on board again, and hopefully he'll get back to ripping the way that he used to, or at least close.
What is this?
That's Monty doing an old air.
No. What is between his legs? Okay, that's not his shadow. That's his butt. Okay, all right. I'm good.
That's light on the shorts. That's not on his. That's my flash not going off. Is what that is.
Okay, all right. I was like,
and then over to the right
Bonnie.
there, that's super important. You want to go to John Dent.
Yeah.
Because John Dent, was, if it wasn't for John and I guess his ends with the property, 301 would have never happened. That's the other cool thing about this whole time period too, was the coconut telegraph. Like Tim said, he would come up, but it wasn't like, it was kind of strange. It was like there are a few ramps like this all over the state, all over the Southeast, I guess. And it almost seems like everybody knew where everybody was going to be every weekend.
Yeah.
And they would all be there. And so there were big sessions at different ramps every weekend, but it was so cool. I don't know how we did it.
It was so bizarre that we would all just congregate. Like maybe it was like just as a fleeting moment as everyone was leaving to go their separate ways. Like, oh, maybe go to Lakeland next weekend. All right, cool, later. And you're out. And then next weekend, everybody's there all over again.
Yeah.
It's odd. It was such a great time. And it's funny because, like, nobody was a secret, like surfers, there are people who rip at all these local spots and stuff. And if you could travel all you want and you run into people, you have no idea who they are and they just rip.
And
Skateboarding wouldn't like that, man. Skateboarding wouldn't like that, man. If somebody ripped, they knew who you were.
Yeah.
This is back in the day when it cost you money to make a long distance phone call to say we're going to Lakeland.
Yeah.
It cost you another buck right there.
Oh my God, I can hear that. I can hear that through the internet.
Damn, that is severe.
There's the other thing is, who does Smith verse like that anymore? I don't know.
Frazier.
It's just what's that?
I said, who does Smith verse like that? Frazier.
No, Frazier's even more twisted.
Yes,
Something about Monty, he like goes so far, and I don't know.
That's a savage Madonna. That is fucking savage.
Savage is a good word for Monty.
That is just
and that's daily on deck there. I think
that's Steve Hilton.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right, because he's riding trackers. Yeah.
It's incredible.
I didn't know this was right. I just knew it was Steve. Okay, so this is Stu Bailey. He was another local. He's an artist. I'm not sure. I think he does. I'm not sure exactly what art he is. Graphic design, maybe not.
That's a serious board there.
That's a Phillips.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And then to the right, that's Steve Hilton again.
Yeah.
Green.
Steve ripped.
Dig it.
Steve ripped.
Absolutely.
Steve went out to California with Chuck and Paul when they first went, I think.
Who painted the ramp? Was it once unpainted and now it's blue? I'm having trouble.
They were all blue back then. That's marine paint. It's water resistant. It's what they paint the bottom of boats with, and it was the cheapest thing you could get to do that. So you'll see lots of blue ramp paintings.
Yeah, there was basically there was just periods of times that they didn't have the paint available, but as soon as they got the paint, then the ramp got painted again.
It's expensive paint, bro. Marine paint.
And it was all about layers too. I think you get to 5 layers, and that was the ideal, right?
Yeah. It was like concrete.
You wouldn't put on a 6th layer. You'd start to have to take it off, but you wouldn't take off a 4th layer. You'd put a 5th layer on top.
Absolutely.
Right.
And your ramp just got a little tighter and a little tighter every time.
So Tim, what? So we're talking. This is 80,
85, 84, 85.
Okay, so what are the wheels? We know what the boards are. We know we got trackers and indies.
So you would be at this point in time. It had come off of Rat Bones. Everyone was skating Rat Bones. Then everyone was skating Vision Blurs, and everyone was skating Sims Nitros, and Speed Wheels Santa Cruz had just come other 60. Well, 60 was pretty common. 60 was pretty much the standard.
Sims was a 63 millimeter though, wasn't it?
Well, not the Nitros, not the Nitros. Like at the beginning of this ramp, they were 63s. Like when this ramp first was built, They were the Sim 63s. They were the Bones Mini Cubics at that point in time.
Yep.
But then it quickly after that, it went to Rat Bones and it went to the Vision Blurs. And then like a year later is when looks like when Speed Wheels came out. The
Speed Wheels and Bullets and SS Radials were the shit.
Yeah.
Radials, yeah.
But that was even a little bit later. That was a little bit after this as well, Richard, you know.
Yeah, I guess. You're right.
But yeah, I mean it was all such a quick period of time.
Okay, so I want to go back because we didn't ID like the last set where that's both Steve Hilton.
Yes.
And Steve was originally St. Pete guy, and I guess he moved down to Bradenton. And then you go down to the next one, it's Steve Hilton, and then Mike Smith again. You said
Mark Smith.
Mark Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's boosted for a bean plant, needless to say.
Yeah, he owned that trick.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not a Madonna. That's a straight up bean plant.
Fucking gnarly.
These are fabulous photos.
And
the Slob Fast Plant's just awesome too, because it's another one. That's another one of those kinds of tricks, and particularly in terms of grabbing the correct timing on it, is so vital. Because if you had taken that a millisecond sooner, his foot would have been all crushed over the coping, and it would have just looked bad.
Yeah. The other thing you got to know is that's going over the channel.
Yes.
In fact, both of those might be going over the channel. I don't know, but certainly the Slob Fast Plant is going over the channel.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Bogey.
Guard.
It's Billy rocking that natural whipsaw there.
He's rocking the Flavor Saver. He was the only one old enough to grow a beard at the time.
That's Steve Hilton doing the Smith bird on the or the sad plant on the right there. Very sad.
That is clean.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Sadder than a funeral.
With that sad plant face. I'm doing a sad plant. That's Rich Leslie on the right with the Joe Johnson, might have been the best board ever. And on the Hosoi is Mike Barron, Todd's younger brother, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him.
That's a channel.
With the no fraud sticker.
Yeah. Well, Rich, did you? I mean, not to take away from the 301 ramp by any stretch, but what was the ramp that was on the south side of town that was like more of the punker ramp that No Fraud played the contest?
I have no idea.
Okay, just curious.
I know there was a ramp. I don't know about south side of town, but there was a ramp in Northport.
No. This was still in Sarasota. They were the ones. That group of skaters, it was all kind of more of like, because I'll just put it this way. Of course, punk rock was happening at 301, but there was a little bit more of a variety of music going on at 301 ramp. Whereas this particular ramp that I'm talking about was without a question hardcore and only hardcore, and hence the reason why No Fraud played a concert during the contest. But
I don't remember any other big ramps in Sarasota at the time.
It was only 20 foot wide. And anyway, the reason why I remember it going to that contest, I should say, was finding out that they're the ones that actually tagged the ramp, the 301 ramp, with art fags. Because the punkers were calling everyone at 301 a bunch of art fags.
That's probably because Rich wouldn't let him in at the bomber spot.
Got to be an elitist.
That's how Rich had him blocked at the door. Rich Leslie was a DJ, so
yes,
he was a pretty prominent DJ at the time.
Throughout the Florida music scene, you know.
Yeah. pretty
All
much.
the
I mean,
books.
you could do a story on Rich Leslie because he was the conduit for a lot of stuff. Hosoi
Yeah.
stayed at his house. Mert stayed at his house. You know, so a lot of those extended stay kind of sort of tour things that those guys did, that was all because of Rich and Doug Mutz, and they were working at the Impulse and the Masquerade at the time.
Nice.
So this
What was it? What was the name of the place in Sarasota? The 506 Bomber Group, or what was that?
I think is a 301 Bomb Squadron or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, out by the airport. It was
Yeah.
one of those
I
World
went there.
War II themed.
Yeah. They had a
restaurant
bunch of
things.
airplanes out there, and they'd play tower
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah.
Then
So-
they ended up turning into a little bit more of a dance club towards after. That was actually after the ramp was gone. But
You're saying they turn into art fags, Tim?
Art bags are everywhere.
well, Rich was DJing there.
There's the March Violet shirt again, but that's Todd Barron this time. Speaking of art fags, not Todd, the March Violets, and that kind of music.
A flurry of Floridian frantic art flags are following this guy.
And then on the right is Dave Mahoney, who went on to, I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he was working at Lip Service for a while. So more rockers. That's Rich Leslie,
Yeah.
Vision Streetwear, doing the lean tail over the
Oh,
channel.
we got a dupe. Sorry about that.
That's all right. And then it's Stu Bailey again on the right. Same picture, I think. It might be
Yeah,
a
it
different
is.
one. I don't know. It might be my fault. The reason there's a dupe there.
That's very That's very Phillips like in that air, though. I really like the way that he's representing. He's got a Phillips style.
Can you go back up to the that invert over the channel?
Yeah, that's
I just love
legit.
that. That's one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, if you know what's going on, if you know what to look for, you're like, fuck me, that's a channel hop.
And Chuck need a boot.
Yep.
Yeah, with Steve's. You know he's making that.
Plus, it's Florida skies and there's no clouds. Pretty good.
And the white pine in the background.
So Rich,
Might be white pine and Australian pine.
can you refresh my memory? Was it a 3.5 foot channel, 3 foot channel, or 4 foot channel? Do you recall?
I think it was I don't know. I think it was 3.5 at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it was bigger than what we had in Naples.
It
Naples
was
is
big
only
enough
3.
not to be nervous about going through it.
Right. And as well, not as nervous going over it.
More nervous going over it, but not as nervous going through it.
Well, there's no pictures of people clearing the hop by a foot or more. They're all making it, but not by a gratuitous amount. So
you got to remember that one side. So the side that he's crossing from.
If you go to the right, actually, if you go up again, go up one more time. And on the right, go to the photos above.
Oh, okay.
There's the channel right there.
Yeah.
Yes, foot.
It's 4 foot.
So
Holy man.
no, it's not. Zoom in there. It's 3.5.
You chopped
because-
a little.
The reason why I know that is because look at how wide this is.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's not a full sheet. That's not a full 8 foot sheet
No,
across
I run
there.
this up. This is the edge of that sheet right here.
So it was about 7 foot, 7.5 foot on one side, and then the other side was full. With the rest of it.
So 3.5 then.
So to be able to do the channel hop was a challenge because it wasn't that wide for you to carve at, get across it.
On the
Oh,
other
I
hand,
see what
look
you're
how
saying, yeah.
clear this picture is. This
Yeah.
is pretty awesome. You zoom into it, you can see a lot.
I'm sure I amazed myself when I developed it.
That's a pretty good photographer there. He's got his shit right on. He's got it dialed.
No
Who's
doubt.
that guy?
It's
Nice.
almost like he was good enough to shoot for Transworld after that.
I bet he was a pro.
Where were
He was a
we?
pro before that, but yeah.
Where were we?
Okay, so
No.
so this is
Oh.
Rich Leslie again on the left doing the invert, and I think, is that John Land?
Yep.
Yeah, John Land, and it doesn't matter how over the grind is. If you're grabbing your nose, it's rad.
Okay.
That's my rule.
I call
grab
those
your nose on
handlebar
a grind,
grabs.
What's that?
Handlebar grinds. You're just holding on to it, you know.
I don't know, man. Just for the flexibility. I wish I could do that, and I can't do that now.
I can't even bend over to tie my shoes for
I
fuck's
know,
sake.
it's crazy.
We only got a couple more, guys. In fact, I think we're about done. So let me.
This is wonderful.
So, Rich,
Yeah, man.
obviously, you know, you shot a ton at Stone Edge, you shot a ton at 301. What can you tell me about like who you've been shooting for, and who are your favorite people to shoot photos with now? And give us a little idea about what, you know, like who you are shooting for besides yourself, but in terms of like who is utilizing your photography.
So basically what's happened was I moved to New York and I lived there for 12 years and doing photography one way or the other, and ended up mostly in production. So, but when I was shooting, it was real photography. And when I say real photography, it's so different than most of what you'll run into skateboard. I'm sure there are some skate photographers that have managed to educate their clients to real photography, or they're overlapping into clients that are not in the skate industry, right? So I'm thinking if you're shooting for Monster Energy, it's more like real photography. Real photography goes like this. They go, we like your work, we want to work with you on this. And you say, what's your budget? And they give you a purchase order. And usually you get an advance that covers at least 150% of the projected expenses. And you go out and you schedule your support team and you do your shoot and stuff like that. Now it's all kind of mixed in with video and stuff, so I can't really speak to all that stuff. But that's real photography. I stopped doing skateboarding photography in mid-90s, and I went to New York, and that's the world I lived in for about a dozen years.
But you
And
started
then
back again. A couple of years ago, you started back taking pictures again, correct?
Well, yeah. So I went through all that, and then I never stopped skateboarding. Mind you, I stopped looking at media. I don't have no idea. I didn't watch Viva La Bam or any of that stuff, or 411 or any of it. I just kind of just did my photography thing, but I always had a skateboard and I always rode it. But it was mainly transportation and just goofing around. Nothing serious, but it was always there. And in 2007, it was the day of the Florida State game, right around Thanksgiving. I was back in Sarasota visiting from New York, and they had a new skate park, and I went to skate around it, and I really broke my arm bad. I passed out.
Designed that park.
Passed out.
Pain Park.
I have a metal plate in my arm.
Yeah, that's probably my fault.
Two surgeries, but in two different locations, and then a revisit on one of them. So I guess it was, technically 3 surgeries. And photography is a funny business, like, especially in New York. Like, your 2 clients, the difference between being stupid rich and making your way is like 2 clients. And I never really could put those other 2 clients together. So I was kind of hand to mouth. So when that happened, I kind of moved back, and it was right after 2007. So it was right at the end of the boom, and I didn't have any support. I broke my arm in Sarasota. I didn't have any support structure in New York. So I did my recovery in Sarasota, but it was months. So I had to give up pretty much everything in New York, the studio share and all that stuff in the apartment. And I moved back here and roundabout hooked up with a woman I used to date in high school. And she lived in Fort Lauderdale, and we ended up getting married and stuff. So that's how I ended up down here. And I was doing things for the family because mom had gotten into some trouble in the real estate thing. And so I was chasing crooks and wrangling lawyers for a few years. But
this would be great to have you come on and do your modern stuff.
What's that?
It'd be nice to have you come back and we can talk about some of your more current photos.
Well, we will. I'm getting. So anyway, so 2001 comes along, and the COVID, and it's the first time since I've been skateboarding that I was in the same place at the same time with my old slides and a scanner and some time on my hands. And so that's when I started uploading every day to Instagram. And that's, you know, when I reconnected with Tim. And not long after that, they had a contest here at Ramp 48 called the Vert Rampidemic. And like I said, I was lucky. So Tim asked who was some of my favorite people to skate. I went to the first person I pointed my camera at was Reef Orlando. And I don't know if you know.
Yes.
Reef Orlando and the Lillards were there, and Kai. Those guys all ripped. And then not long after the Rampidemic came along, there was Rodney Mullen. Or Rodney Mullen, Rodney Mead. You know, like, holy crap, Rodney, you look the freaking same. How you doing? You know? And so it kind of all started back up. So on Instagram, I noticed Cleo was doing something. And I mean, you know people. Are we going way over time?
No. What time? We don't give a shit. Go ahead and talk.
Oh,
I've got to punch out in a few and go cook some dinner. So
this won't take long. But there are people you know and love, right? Well, one of the people you know and love is Cleo Cloning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cleo's doing a magazine. I said, man, whatever you want, you let me know. I got you. So that's pretty much where all my print work has been going. And then the rest of the stuff is pretty much my thing. I'm really digging being the guy who decides what pictures get seen nowadays, right? And I'm pretty eclectic. If you look at my Instagram, I'll point my camera at anybody these days.
So have you had any gallery shows or local art houses?
I have not worked on a gallery show. I get, I put feelers out for like a calendar, and, and nobody replies. It's like, hey man, if I do a calendar, who's gonna buy it? And it's like dust, people just aren't into print. So it's all about cell phone cameras now, and cell phone videos. But I'll be doing stuff. Mainly what I started doing is I started doing prints because I love them, and I donate them, and I get them autographed and donate these prints. So I've made some money for, Facile and Grind for Life and who's the other charity I donate to?
Or have you taken commercial clients with skateboarding as the subject?
Not since the skate days back in the 90s. We used to shoot for Zorlak, shot for Schmidt Sticks, shot for GNS. I shot, my pictures were everywhere.
I mean, consumer products, not the industry products.
Oh no, I haven't fielded like I said, I just kind of abandoned the skate industry. So my portfolio didn't really have any skateboarding in it. When I was in New York, the work that I was doing was mainly music, entertainment, and nightlife. And then I did a lot of photo production for other photographers, and I ran a rental studio that was a studio chair of mine. So I was doing personal work and then running rental stuff and doing castings and things for other clients.
And now you're back on our show, and that's great, and that's good.
I just wanted to share real quick. So I've randomly found these 2 shots from 301 Ramp that I thought I'd share as well.
Go ahead.
It's just 2 simple shots, but things that I've had forever.
They're not up yet.
Oh, really? I think you.
There it is. Oh my!
There we go.
There we go.
Look at that.
And that's Howard Montague right down there as well.
Okay.
Look at the Caballero.
And my personal homemade double rectors.
That's right.
Is that you?
That is an awesome stick. That's the full dragon Christmas version.
Yeah,
That's super rare. That's one of my favorite sticks. I had that in the collection.
and then another one from I think that was the third contest.
And that has to be a Griggly shirt, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I had that flyaway until 3 days before I moved to Colorado. Somebody broke into my car and stole my bag, my pad bag, and made off with that flyaway.
Well, compensation for the smell.
Hey,
But anyway,
imagine stealing a pad bag.
Let's wrap this show up. This has been great.
Okay, well, thank
Great.
you guys for
Good to talk
watching.
to all of you.
Richard, thanks for visiting, and we'll have you back again when we figure out another good focal point and try to get Daly on. Mr. Mott Rock, thank you. Congratulations on your victory at Spot. Way to go.
Well, that was a while ago.
Well, he was still skating. That's awesome. And of course, George and Phil, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys bearing with me. And thank you all for watching, especially if you're overseas. Tell us, comment, like, share, and follow. Thank you very much for watching the Skateboarding Bros Show.
You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love.